I have never thought the Earth was flat as far as I know, and I always thought flat earthers were a kind of humorous distraction until last fall, when I got COVID again and was sick for about 10 days. After watching all the usual YouTube videos I could find, I reluctantly went down the flat Earth rabbit hole out of boredom, and now I'm unfortunately hooked. I can't get enough of these people's crazy theories and delusions. So I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring with a short video of how I, a total non-scientist, or even person with a science-related degree, would debunk flat Earth. Beyond just being confused why anyone who has ever been close to a school once or twice in their life could think the Earth was flat. I can't understand why, in these arguments between debunkers and flat earthers, everything has to be so complex and scientific, and so much math. The easiest way to debunk this crap is just with history. The history I'm sure flat earthers would love because the heroes of the story are all devout Christians in the genocide committing settler colonialism style. I don't think I came up with this argument. I'm sure I heard it from someone else at some point, and I've just filled it in with more details over time. I'm not going to claim I have everything right either, and I haven't fact-checked everything I'm going to lay out here 100%. Think of it more of a quick and dirty overview. I'll link to some videos that can give you more detail if you're interested, and a Wikipedia page for every argument I make. You can find all that below in the description if you don't see it here on the screen. And if anyone wants to correct me on anything, I love to learn, so fire away. If you want a whole overview of the history I'm going to reference here, you can start with this video. The most important thing about this argument is it has nothing to do with any conspiracies. All the history here should be pretty much indisputable. A lot of it is stuff we learned in elementary school, and as far as I know, even ancient aliens wouldn't argue with it. NASA is not involved, and the world we are talking about is not organized the way we think of it today. Most of the countries of Europe we know of today were split into different kingdoms, and the Catholic Church held tremendous political power and wealth. Everyone was in constant competition, including outright war with each other. This is roughly what the known world looked like to the Europeans and Arabs in the 12th century. Essentially, my argument is, if European explorers were going out to explore this world, how come they all found this one? They believed the world was a globe, had rough ideas about its size, and had an idea of where Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and Asia were on it, and how big they were. They had no idea how far South Africa actually went, or that there even was a North and South America or Australia. At best, the ancient Greeks guessed there might be land at the South Pole. The idea of a globe Earth goes back to at least the 5th century BCE and the writings of Greek philosophers. The first calculations of a spherical Earth are recorded by the Greeks in the 3rd century BCE, where there are also writings about Indian Brahmins believing the Earth was round. So, who knows how old the idea might have been, but just not recorded. It's really not that mind-blowing to be suspicious that your world might not be flat if you have the opportunity to make the right observations and you're open-minded. Long before this time, peoples all over the world were sailing the seas as far as they could with little regard for the shape of the world. They did this for hundreds of years, and they did it as far as we know without the benefit of maps. They hugged the coasts, moved from island to island, navigated by stars with the tools they invented, learned the currents and prevailing winds, and recorded what knowledge they gained by whatever systems they developed. In this way, the Polynesians sailed all over the Pacific, probably even reaching South America. The Vikings reached North America. The Phoenicians sailed the entire Mediterranean Sea, possibly reaching the British Isles and the Arctic, circumnavigating Africa, landing in India. But none of them, as far as we know, used maps to do it, because whatever maps did exist, they could not be trusted. This was really the state of things, until about the 13th century when Portolan charts started to emerge in Europe and the Middle East. These were nautical maps drawn on vellum with detailed coastlines, descriptions of landmarks, nautical conditions and territory, and wind roses and rumblines, which resembled compass roses that could be used for bearings. These were the first reliable maps for navigating the seas, and they were developed by people who operated under the assumption that the Earth was not flat, even if they did not exactly know its shape and size. Using these tools starting in the early 15th century, Portugal's Prince Henry the Navigator directly employed his resources to explore the world and bring back the gathered information to produce more accurate charts, and then go back out even further and repeat the process, expanding knowledge and methods of navigation. The ultimate aim was to reach India and the Eastern world for the Portuguese to compete with the rest of Europe. They started by working their way down the western coast of Africa on the theory they could circumnavigate the continent and sail across the Indian Ocean to reach their goals. By 1488, they had rounded the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. Separately, in 1492, Columbus, sailing for the Spanish, reached the Americas under the theory that by sailing west, he could reach the east, because he believed the earth, like all educated people of the time, was round. He also went to his grave sure that he had reached India because he insisted the earth was much smaller than common understanding of the time, and only didn't die because the Americas happened to be in the way when his supplies were running out. In order to justify his belief that he had reached India, despite not traveling far enough, he argued the earth was pear-shaped, which is a kind of round. Now the story really begins to pick up steam. The Portuguese continue to push on with their ever-expanding knowledge and wealth, drawing more and more charts that are kept as carefully guarded secrets. Because remember, they are in competition with all the other nations of the known world, and this knowledge is the key to even more wealth and power. By 1498, they had reached the west coast of India. In order to do this, they have learned to depart the coast of Africa, head out west into the Atlantic, and then south to follow the currents in a loop that sends the ships north and east around the southern tip. This loop gets so big that they reach northeastern South America on the way. By 1522, a Spanish expedition has circumnavigated the globe, traveling west to the Philippines through the southern tip of South America and then around Africa back to Spain. Now, a flat earther could say this is no big deal. Our map allows you to do all the same exploration and discovery. But when you think about it just a little, this does not make any sense. These explorers all went out exploring with the assumption that the Earth was round. They gathered all their information with tools designed for a globe Earth. They drew maps and made calculations based on a globe Earth. They used those maps to safely and accurately return to places they had already been and push on even further. All the information they collected and maps they drew, the more knowledge they gathered, got more exact, not less. If the world you are exploring looks like this, and all your assumptions are based on this model, how are your maps not constantly getting you lost? How are you drawing accurate maps at all? How are you building knowledge of this world and inventing and refining tools to explore it? And the tools and techniques for exploring the world are only getting more sophisticated. The mariner's astrolabe and hourglass give way to the sextant and the marine chronometer, and the techniques to use them. All of these tools depending on a globe Earth to work. By the late 18th century, British explorer James Cook has made 3 tours of the Pacific, traveling from deep in the south to the Arctic Circle. Fleets of ships are traveling all over the world reliably like clockwork. It is no problem to circumnavigate the globe. By 1820, a Russian expedition reaches Antarctica. So let's focus on where we are now for a moment. Ships traveling from Europe to Australia and Polynesia would travel by something called the Clipper route. This was a route that, leaving Europe, went west and south into the Atlantic, looping around the tip of Africa. But then instead of going back north, it continued going east until it reached its destinations in the South Pacific, taking advantage of the currents and winds. To return to Europe, the ship would head out east again, towards South America, passing under the tip, and then back up north in the Atlantic. Now think about what that route would look like on a flat Earth, where the longitude lines and distances between landmasses necessarily grow further apart the farther south you go. I could try and do some math and figure out what the differences in distance would be, but what's the point? The flat Earth map isn't real, and just at a glance, you can tell that anyone navigating this would know something was wrong with the distances they would be traveling on an actually flat Earth. The distances would be so vast that any crew would probably risk starvation. How could this be used for regular commerce? Don't even consider that on a flat Earth it would appear the quickest route would be to keep switching between northeast and southeast and pass by Mexico, instead of just east. But who knows how compasses work on a flat Earth anyways? Maybe this thing fixes the problem somehow, by turning the oceans into an amusement park ride. This point is key. If the Earth is flat and looks anything like a globe Earth, then especially in the southern hemisphere, either the distances between land masses across the oceans or the size of land masses cannot correspond to what we are assuming on the globe. It has to be different, and that means, if this is wrong, then this has to be too. What's right? Who knows in the case of a flat Earth? Also, consider that by this point in history, with the right equipment, you can know precisely where you are on the surface of the Earth in terms of longitude and latitude. You can't just move these places around wherever you like. Really, the story is over here, but let's push on for fun. Humanity's knowledge begins to explode. Eventually, the grasp on the maps that were held so securely by the competing nations of the world loosens, and this knowledge becomes common. The coastlines and oceans may almost all be on the maps, but the interiors of all the continents are mostly unknown to the outside world. When the interiors of North and South America, Africa, and Asia are mapped, they fill in the coastlines accurately. Nobody has to redraw their nautical maps, because these areas are vastly larger or smaller than was assumed by incorrectly mapping the oceans and seas around them. The globe Earth continues to prove itself true, almost circularly, one might say. Man learns to fly, first using airships, and then with flying machines. Nothing about navigating or operating these new inventions over vast areas of the Earth suddenly revealed it was flat. Everything about them coincided with the globe Earth as they became more sophisticated and capable, traveling greater distances at ever-increasing speeds. By the end of the 19th century, a person can find almost any area on the globe, then use a commonly available atlas to explore that area. They can travel to that area on reliable transportation that follows a set schedule. The route matches what they find in their atlas if they bring it with them. When they get there, the maps in the atlas are reliable. Local maps match the atlas. How is this possible if all the information used to make these maps, atlases, and globes is incorrect? Maps, atlases, and globes made by different companies all match each other. Over time, the information keeps getting more accurate, not less. But the countries of the world are all still in competition, economically, politically, and militarily. Accurate information about the geography of the world is priceless in this competition. Bad intelligence, including maps, can be fatal in any of these areas. And as they become more sophisticated, armies and navies, and eventually air forces, begin to work together in larger and larger operations. And the scope of war became huge in the 19th and 20th centuries. Giant armies, navies, and air forces battle each other over oceans and across continents. In the 20th century, there are two wars that are fought across enough territory with so many countries involved that the term World War becomes common. The newest technological advancement in these wars are submarines that navigate under the water for extended periods. How do they do this without accurate charts and navigational equipment and procedures? How do the surface navies hunt down and sink these submarines without the same accurate charts? Is it all blind luck? Have none of these most advanced countries in history, sending vast navies, armies, and air forces all over the world to battle for their very survival, not figured out that their globe assumptions are incorrect, and that they can gain incredible advantage by deploying the correct flat Earth knowledge instead? And what about the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people trained to navigate and operate all these vehicles, equipment, and weapons on globe Earth principles? Why, here's a random US Army Air Force World War II training film. The algorithm served up to me on celestial navigation. Oh, look, there's a globe. These people depended on this training with their lives. None of them ever found it didn't work and got better success with flat Earth theories. Nobody wanted to become famous revealing the greatest secret in human history. Let's finish with efforts to map floors of the oceans. Beginning in the 1920s using sonar, efforts were made to map seafloors around the world. Boats traveled between the coastlines of the continents. By 1957, a map of sea basins had been developed, and it all filled in between the continents of the globe Earth as they had already been mapped. A year before the founding of NASA, almost the entire Earth had been explored, and everything kept coming back globe. And I think that's enough. To sum up this argument as succinctly as possible, I would put it like this. Humans have explored the world as long as they have existed and recorded that knowledge through various means the entire time. But until they understood the Earth was a globe and developed tools and methods that used that knowledge, they could not accurately map it. And once we had that knowledge and those tools, we only became more accurate. The result of all that exploring, invention, and knowledge was the incontrovertible truth that the Earth is spherical. We knew this without a doubt before we ever had an image from space, or even before any government that exists today came into being. I have no doubt that flat earthers will have some excuse why this isn't true. Jesuits or the Illuminati or Masons or something. If you've already gone down that path, I don't expect to convince you. If you're not sure, though, just consider this short retelling of the history of humans exploring and mapping the Earth. Investigate it yourself. It's easy. Some links are below. Even more are easy to find. Thanks for watching.